What's your thoughts on those two names that I mentioned there, Mo?
Listen, I said it many times. Maddison is a superior player to Odegaard, and I said it many times. Odegaard is a fantastic player and everything, but you didn't see Odegaard doing what Maddison did yesterday. And I said it on a video that I shared earlier. Odegaard dictates not only where the game is gonna go, but the tempo of the game. Bissouma gets the ball, look for Maddison. Odegaard, sometimes the game goes past him, like in phases. He goes brilliant for 10, 15 minutes, and then there's 10 minutes where he goes missing. Maddison yesterday, until he went off, hobbling on a knee, asking for the ball, in the defensive part, on the right, on the left, everywhere. That's what I mean. Plus, of course, the trickery. Has better trickery one-on-one than Odegaard in terms of driving at a player, looking at a player in the eye, and dribble them like an all-time football player, like we used to see Ryan Giggs. We used to see the guys back in the days, the Cristiano, like dribbling at a player one-to-one. Maddison is superior, in my opinion.
Yeah, the way he spun Saka, that was naughty. That was, and
it's not only him, Declan Rice as well. In the middle, Declan Rice is the big guy.
I said it at the time, that it's not a crazy take. I said it. There was so many Arsenal fans wanted Maddison over Odegaard when he came. There's so many, and in the chat they were going crazy. They were going crazy at the take. But Mo, I fully heard you, bro. I fully heard you.
I can't lie, you guys are doing too much. Odegaard, I don't think Odegaard was that. Listen, if I'm
wasn't bad for Sam. You're not getting my point. It wasn't bad for Sam. Don't tell Sam that I said he's bad.
A monologue for 3 minutes. Let me respond. When it comes to Odegaard, okay, if I'm starting a team tomorrow, I'm taking Odegaard over what's his name, Maddison. The reason why, if you're telling me Maddison is maybe a better big game player, okay. But overall, I think Odegaard got a lot more to his game and got much bigger potential than Maddison. Odegaard could become if in 3 years from now, Odegaard could become the best midfielder in the entirety of Europe. I don't think Maddison has that potential. And also, Maddison is very injury prone. That's another thing. Also, when you're talking about stuff like dribbling, there's something that you can't teach. Odegaard could get better at dribbling. He could build up his confidence. He could shoot more. But Odegaard's IQ, for me, is what separates him from many midfielders. And
I've got a question for you, Sam, though. You know when you say that you think Odegaard's got more in his locker than Maddison, yeah? Do you think that Odegaard would be able to put up the same performances in that Leicester team to what Maddison was doing? Because what Husam's been describing,
absolutely.
Not Husam, sorry. What Mo's been describing about Maddison is that he wants to be involved from 0 to 90 minutes. Do you get it? There's so many times over the years. Look, Odegaard's a good player. I rate Odegaard. I like him. I would love him at Chelsea. Yeah, I'm not slandering here before Arsenal fans get a bit sensitive. Yeah. All I'm saying is I see Odegaard ghost a lot in a lot of games, and especially in big games as well. He goes missing a lot, and even the own fan base says this about him, right? I don't see Odegaard doing what Maddison was doing in that Leicester team, because Odegaard is more of he needs to be in a system to see the best out of him, in my opinion. I think that's cherry on top.
When you say he doesn't perform in big games, I mean, he scored. I swear
he has performed. He's performed
United, against Arsenal, against Liverpool, Chelsea, everyone.
He's performed in big games. I can give you examples of where he has performed in big games, but I can also give you examples where he hasn't performed in big games. So when you're saying that you think Odegaard's got more than Maddison, I don't agree. I think Maddison offers a lot more than what
Maddison's only played in two. Maddison's only played in 2 big games in his whole career. 2.
Yeah,
of course, yes.
Because he's only now just moved. Listen, I think Maddison's excellent, and I'm not putting him down at all. He played well against Manchester United. He was very good yesterday, but they are the first 2 big games that he's played in. When you're at Leicester, listen, and he wasn't there in the title-winning season. The way teams set up and play against you is different to when you play against Arsenal's, Chelsea. It's a very different game of football. Lingard would never do for United or for Chelsea or for Arsenal what he did at West Ham. There are players, and part of me thinks that about Brighton. A lot of people go, I'd love all those Brighton players. Listen, you suddenly put Pascal Gross in a team where he's playing up against low blocks every week. I guarantee you he's not as good. I'm not saying he won't be good, but there's a different level when you go to a big... I always remember listening to an interview with Ashley Young, and the season before Man United bought him, he was the most creative player on the left-hand side in the Premier League, create more chances than anybody else. The level of chances halved the following season. And he did an interview on MUTV, and they said, what's been the main difference? He went, when I played for Aston Villa, I often had one player to worry about, like a fullback, or no one, because there was space to run into. He says, at Man United, every time I attack, there's at least 2 players ahead of me to defend against. The world changed. And I think that has to be taken into consideration when you review this. And I think the same with Tottenham. Tottenham have been brilliant so far this season, and they deserve credit. but it's a new style. People are not used to it yet. And I don't like the expression they're not taking Liverpool, Spurs seriously. I think that's a bit of a backhanded compliment. But teams are quite open against them, and they will change and adapt. And that's why I'm saying celebrate, Spurs fans, be happy. But I would take Patrick's approach of being reserved and not getting ahead of ourselves. And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but twice I remember Everton starting seasons like this. Their first season under Roberto Martinez in 2013-14. And they did this, I believe it was in the 2021 season when Ancelotti came in. They started well and they faded. Now,
they've done it once with Moyes as well. They had 13 out of 15 points.
Yeah, but Moyes has been at the club a long time. I'm talking about a new manager, first start this season and a spike. And I'm not saying Spurs are going to fall off in the same way those two teams did. But I think they've got to enjoy what they're doing. And remember, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. I think Spurs are also being used, the same as Maddison, as a tool to beat rivals over the head with. Maddison's better than Odegaard. Oh, my God, they've got a starter player after 6 games. What are Chelsea and Man United doing? As if that's the only way it's ever been done and the only way success has ever been created. And I think the Spurs fans need to make sure they don't get dragged in to the overhype and the tool that they're being used for, which is to attack other people with. I see Spurs playing well, and I see people on Sky Sports attacking my club with it when we're nothing to do with the game. That's the bit that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with.
Sorry, just to clarify,
even though I think Tottenham have been amazing, and I think Maddison's been great, comparing him to a player that's been at the elite end of the spectrum for many, many years, you've got to leave it a little bit longer first. We've seen a lot of players
who has
move
been
to
in
big
the
teams.
elite spectrum. I'm sorry.
Wait.
Odegaard.
Oh, hang on, Odegaard's been playing for one of the biggest teams in Europe for the last 2 or 3 years. Yes or no?
He has been playing. He didn't even play.
Does that mean he's better than Maddison the whole time?
No. I need to answer.
Slow down, everyone. Slow down.
Same as Brahim Diaz playing for Real Madrid, being on the squad and having a game in, game out doesn't mean
hang on. So
part of that team.
Hang on.
He's been at Arsenal.
You're telling me?
Okay, Arsenal. I'm like,
That's what I'm trying to slow everyone down for. You're telling me that he hasn't been a regular player for one of the biggest teams in Europe for the last few years.
Yeah, but Terry, Odegaard, when he was on loan, wasn't the player that we're seeing now. Like we saw it in flashes.
He progressed. But he progressed. Yes, he's got better. But also, hang on. 3 years ago, he was 21 years old. Like we're talking about a young man still at that point, and he's 2 years younger than Maddison as well. I think Maddison's great. I've wanted him in the England squad. I'd have liked Man United to buy him. I am not slagging him off. I think though, after 2 appearances in top 6 clashes, to say better than Odegaard, clear. I think it's premature. I think it's far too.
I think it is premature. It is premature.
Hold
on. Wait, Rory, let me
go. I said that before even the season starts.
Exactly. That's the point. This is a conversation that was happening in general, not about this season after 6 games. Or now Madison's better.
You don't know in general. This
is something. Yeah, but Mo's already spoken about it, and these debates have been happening before.
You don't know in general. You don't know in general because they've not been playing under the same conditions. That is when you realize.
Can I answer that?
Guys, let me finish my point.
Every single player like Newcastle have or something.
Just let me finish my point. When we're talking about the elite end of the spectrum, when you play for a big team, the pressure, the stakes are different. Teams approach the game against you in a different way. Matt Letizia is one of the best technicians the Premier League's ever had. But I don't put him on par with anyone in his era that was playing for Chelsea, that was playing for Man United, that was playing for Arsenal. The difference in pressure and the way teams set up against you changed things. I said the same thing about Harry Kane. I think he's one of the best strikers in the world. But until he's playing in a team that's in title races and that has pressure on to win every single match, I'm not going to judge him on the same level as strikers with his technical ability. Maddison's had 6 games at a big club and 2 matches against other big teams. To say that he's better than players that have been doing it for 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, because of 2 performances, I think it's premature.
But Terry, then, so what you're doing now, then
I don't get where Terry's coming from here, because Odegaard has done it only last year.
Only last year that he was at that level
and the year before.
Now. No, he wasn't at that level.
The year before,
So 2 years versus 2.
No.
But Terry, what you're kind of doing now is moving the goalposts, because what you're saying is,
I'm not.
Because Maddison.
I can't be moving the goalposts when I've maintained this logic for the last 7 years since I've been on.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that logic, because you're basically saying that because Maddison played for Leicester and teams are more expansive against Leicester because of how they play, and he's playing for Spurs right now, and teams are more open against them. Maddison can't play well in a low block, in a team that will be facing low blocks weekly. For example, a Man City, for example, a Man United, for example, a Chelsea. I think Maddison can play for these teams and comfortably perform. I don't agree with that he can only play in teams that are open.
You're entitled to an opinion,
He's not
but you don't have evidence.
100%.
Hang on. You don't have evidence of that yet. So for me, I've seen this happen in my lifetime watching football. And this is what I think happened to Mason Mount at Chelsea. When he came to your club, no one knew how to really play against him. Started off quite well. First couple of years at Chelsea, did well, right or wrong?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, cool. And
Then
what happens is the tacticians watch and go, right, if we do X, if we do Y, if we do Z, if we put him on his left foot, put him on his right foot, put a man on him, whatever it may be, we can nullify him. What Mason Mount hasn't done yet is adjust to how teams approached him. But again, Maddison is soon going to get looked at by teams going, right, Spurs play attacking football, we've got to sit back deeper. Maddison's great at this. They're going to put a tactic on him. The tacticians and the coaches are going to go, right, this is how we stop him. That's been happening now to Odegaard for at least 2 years, and he's found ways to adapt to make himself better. Until I see a player tested at that level, I'm not going to say they're better than somebody else. And that isn't because it's Maddison versus an Arsenal player or a Liverpool player versus a Man United player. I maintain that logic at all times due to 35 years of watching football and seeing players come from smaller teams. And when they first arrive, they do really well. And a lot of them can fade. Equally, some players come in, they start poorly and they get better over the course of time. 6 games at a big club and 2 big clashes, I just don't think makes him outright better.
Yeah,
Technically, you can say that he is, but you don't have a body of work to say he's better yet. You just
Can
don't.
I answer Terry then? Let me answer Terry. In the
I don't agree
season
with that. I don't agree with that at all.
I don't
last
agree with
year
that
is
either.
the only last year is the only year where Leicester had less than 50% possession average of the season. The year before, okay, Arsenal and Leicester both have very close percentage of ball possession. That means the team set up exactly the same against them. Maddison had better stats. Before that, Odegaard played only 14 games and people wanted him out, so you cannot compare him because he was 21 years old. Okay, but what I mean is that you said that teams don't sit back against Leicester. That was only last year. Before that, Leicester finished in the top 8, and they were always in the top 6 in terms of ball position. That means they were a progressive team.
I understand that. So let me just ask you a question, because we can agree to disagree. I'm not precious about.
100%.
Hang on. Let me ask my question though. We can agree to disagree. So I just want to ask you this question. You think teams play the same against Leicester as they do against the Man Cities and the Arsenals and the Liverpools? Do you think they approach Leicester? Do you think they approach Leicester in the same way in the last few years as they do those teams?
Yes, for the season before last, yes.
Okay.
No,
if you believe that,
I 100% believe that. For the season before last, stats show that. I'm not going to remember games, but the seasons before that, as you said, people saw that. People said that Arsenal play. One of the things that we said that we thought Arteta in the first 2 years play pragmatic football, and that's my evidence here. Arsenal last year, they improved massively, but before that, Leicester used to play very good football and finished ahead of Arsenal before last season, twice ahead of Arsenal. That's the proof.
Here's the thing for me, right? Here's the thing for me. Because right now, teams can neutralise to an extent Arsenal by having a player sit on Odegaard. It happened last season in certain games. It's a way of neutralising Arsenal is to have a player sit on Odegaard. You double up on Saka and you have someone sit on Odegaard. Until James Maddison faces that same sort of thing, because I think if you do sit a player on James Maddison, that will massively dampen the attacks and the creativity that Spurs have. Until he shows that he can deal with that in a better way than Martin Odegaard does, I just don't think he can be argued as a better player than Odegaard, because he doesn't have to deal with that.
I think we love to do Arsenal like fuck. Everyone just likes to do fuck Arsenal. The reality is Maddison hasn't hit Odegaard last season levels. That's just the reality, in my opinion. Last season, the guy got like 15, 16 non-penalty goals from his position. He was the Arsenal captain, was part of them being in a title race, was, according to many people, their best player. I can't lie. I hear why people are disagreeing with Terry's logic, but this season, the guys, he is right. Like, he's only played 2 big games so far, the United and the Arsenal game. So we need a bigger sample size. If this continues maybe until March, April time, then we'll speak then. But right now, if I'm starting a franchise tomorrow and picking one of them, I'm taking Odegaard. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
Opinions,
that's fine. But
opinions.
all I'm saying is, with Terry's logic, it doesn't matter what he does for Spurs. He can be performing week in, week out. You know, hit all these targets and all these figures and that. Yeah, but because he plays for Spurs and it's not Arsenal, it's not United, it's not City, it doesn't count. That's what I'm hearing from the logic.
Can I tell you why that's cap? Can I tell you why that's cap right now? Because of Harry Kane. No one said that shit when Harry Kane was a Spurs striker. Everyone said, people last season, Don, said Harry Kane's better than Haaland. If Harry Kane played for Man City, he would have scored 50 goals. How many times do you hear that statement? So I don't think that's fair at all. Us saying, oh, just because it's Spurs.
But I think Maddison will be perfect for Arsenal.
Don, let me respond. Let me respond. So firstly, I didn't say that because I've said that he's only now just moved to a big team. It depends on who you're comparing him to in the context. So for instance, when people compare Harry Kane to Luis Suarez clear. Because I've seen Luis Suarez deliver in multiple title races, multiple major finals. That's a different pressure to playing in a normal Premier League game or being in a top 4 race, as an example. And the reason why I believe that I'm right has nothing to do with my emotions or feelings. It's listening to these football players talk. The difference of playing... Go look up the quotes of what Berbatov said, the difference that he felt before walking out on the pitch for Man United versus walking out on the pitch for Tottenham, the difference in pressure and expectation. So your ability is one thing, but handling that new expectation is another. Harry Kane himself has said it in the last few weeks, and I know Spurs fans hated it, but they know in their heart of hearts it's true, that he can win 3 games on the bounce for Bayern, it not be convincing, and they get slaughtered, where they could lose 2 games on the bounce of Tottenham and it's still okay. That's a different pressure. He delivers at Bayern regularly, especially in the Champions League. Under that pressure, you're a different level of football player, because when you get to the top end of that elite spectrum, the difference between people isn't often technical ability. It's their ability to handle that pressure. And the more title races and the more finals you're in, and the bigger the club you play for, typically the better the player you are, because you're handling more pressure and you're in more pressured environments and delivering on a more regular basis. So, of course, Maddison can get to that standard. Of course he can. But I think after 2 games to outright just say he is better, I think it's a little bit premature. I want to see him do it a little bit more first. I'm not saying, again, as Sam just said, if he keeps doing this and performing in the big games, small games, and delivering, you will see nobody praise him more than me, because I don't have agendas. But like I say about great managers, to be a great manager, you've got to win back-to-back league titles in a major country and the Champions League. And if you don't achieve that, I don't put you in the great category. The only caveat I have to that is a man that's won the most ever Champions League.
You've got I
have certain standards that I put every player to, whether they play for my club or your club, and I don't yield on that ever.
Yeah, Terry, you've got a good point when you talk about pressure, and I definitely agree with you. Like, there is different pressures that come with playing for different clubs, yeah. But I can talk about Odegaard crumbling under pressure last season. I can talk about him when they went away to the Etihad, where he didn't do anything in that title race. I can talk about him going away at Anfield and was a ghost on the pitch. Hold on. Let me just land my point, because he's the captain, right? He's the captain, and you're saying that he's at a big club and needs to handle that pressure. He couldn't handle that pressure last season at the Etihad. He couldn't handle that pressure last season at Anfield. He couldn't handle that pressure even at the Bridge in that crap team. He didn't do anything when we played them. Yep. So there's multiple examples where Odegaard hasn't been able to handle the pressure in this breakout season that he's had.
I hear you. So let me ask you this question: can you tell me about James Maddison's performances in those big games in a title race, please?
Oh yeah, well, obviously there's no
again, hang on. So the conversation isn't who's good, it's 2 players against each other. So when you're comparing them, you have to look at their overall careers. So you can argue, I would disagree that Odegaard's choked in some big games, but Maddison hasn't even been in them big games yet, and he's delivered in some of them. So the examples you're using as to why Odegaard isn't as good, you can't even use him as an example for Maddison, because he's not been in that position yet, bro.
I'm not saying that's why.
It's like a boxer that's never had a world title fight saying, I'm better than the guy that's lost 3 world title fights. You haven't even got to that level yet. So for me, I understand where you're coming from, and I think Maddison's amazing. But I just think after 2 big games in his whole career, it's a little bit premature. And look, he might end up being the better guy. There's elements of his game that I think is amazing. And 4 assists, 2 goals. I think he's one of the highest chance creators in the league. Maddison's had an impeccable start. Him and Szoboszlai, my 2 signings of the season so far, if I'm going to be really objective about it.